Hi, Chris Dawson from Channel X TV, sponsored by Volo here, and delighted to be joined by Katy Medlock from Back Market to talk about refurbished, recycled and second life products. So welcome Katy, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's lovely to see you again in one of your vibrant shirts.
Yeah, so we spoke, it must have been about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, maybe even longer.
And at the time we were talking about the kind of the intersection of cost-friendly products coupled with sustainability,
yep.
Coupled with, frankly, getting more value from products over the lifetime and extending the lifetime of a product. But what are you seeing as particularly pertinent for the coming year, 2024?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think we can quickly recap what got us onto that conversation last time, which was Back Market's growth. So the company's been around since 2014, but we only really launched into the UK earnestly 3-4 years ago. And it has been one of Back Market's fastest growing markets. And
Good old UK.
Good old UK. I think one of the reasons for that is it's this perfect sort of intersection of you know, really big e-commerce industry. Mm-hmm. You know, when you look at online transactions, the UK is the size of France and Germany combined. So we've got a really big pool of market. The second thing is, as you say, that sustainability. I think consumers are really getting more and more considerate with their choices here. And also, let's be honest, it's been a grim few years in the UK, and the cost of living crisis has done
Cash
nobody,
is quite tight.
Yeah, any favours. And as a result, you have people are looking for cost-effective alternatives. And when a device is something that you still need, it's not really a luxury item. I think Back Market sits at the intersection of those three trends, which is why we've seen that growth. In terms of your question about which one for 2024, I would love to sit here and tell you that it's sustainability and that everybody has suddenly come full circle.
You're probably going to tell me they just haven't got enough money and they're looking for a deal.
It is the case, yeah. That is still the #1 driver of why people choose Refurbished. But I think over time, they've been more confident in the quality that Refurbished is. They don't think they're getting some used second-hand product now. They're beginning to understand that it has all of the mod cons of buying just like new.
And I think lots of platforms are getting people into that, because even some of the big phone companies are kind of, you're not actually buying a phone anymore, you're kind of borrowing it for a year and then you can buy a refurbished one. But talk to me a bit about the kind of the environmental impact of tech and just how long can you extend the life of a product for? I mean, yeah. Obviously I've had Android phones which literally do not work anymore because they just can't cope with the latest version of Android, but I've got other phones that I've had for sort of 2-3 years, and I'm wondering, should I stick with the phone? Is it still good, or should I be getting a new phone, or should I be getting a phone that's maybe in the middle? It's a couple of years old, someone else has used it. But how long can we push the envelope and make these things last?
I think I'll take on your first point, because I think that sets the scene well for how to answer the second point about the device itself, and that's around the sustainability. I think, you know, fast fashion, air travel, consumers generally are really aware of the footprint of those activities.
And electric cars, they just announced that the millionth one in the UK has just been sold.
Yeah, exactly, and so the sustainable travel choices, exactly. But one thing people are less familiar with is the impact of their electronics and their devices. So take carbon footprint. 3% of the world's emissions come from air travel. Only marginally behind is 2% that comes from the production, not the use, the production of your electronics.
So that's massive.
It's huge. And then that's one problem. Alongside it, you've got e-waste. A lot of your electronics are bulky, a lot of them contain precious metals, extremely valuable, but even regardless, 2 million tons of e-waste is generated in the UK alone every year. What is a ton? An SUV, one of those electric vehicles you just mentioned, weighs about a ton. 2 million tons in the landfill each year, and most of that is toxic. So 70% of your waste is coming from your electronics, 70% of your toxic waste, sorry to clarify.
And we can't just keep chucking that into landfill.
This is exactly it.
So back to the second part of the question is, how long can the life of these products really realistically be extended in a, not just an environmental, but an economical manner?
Of course. I mean, it's a really important question, because so much when we talk about reducing that e-waste impact, so much of the conversation turns to recycling. But we just have to get our heads around the fact that recycling is the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, really. we want to do so much more before there to make sure that we're prolonging the life of these devices rather than just relying on cycling as sort of a guilt-free alternative at the end. So,
I've got to say, these tech companies, they don't help me because they keep bringing out a new model every year, and it's almost an expectation that I'll buy the new one every year.
yeah.
Whether it be an iPhone or an Android or whatever it is, there's constantly a big launch each year.
There is, although I think, and we're seeing this in their sales figures as well, that the frenzy of needing to buy new is starting to diminish. And there's a couple of drivers for that, right? One, the products themselves each year have less and less new jazzy features. You remember the difference from the first models of the iPhone to the second and third?
I remember my first smartphone, it was literally a 1-inch coloured screen.
Right?
It was tiny.
Whereas now, your average Joe using a new handset, how much difference is there really between a 13, a 14, a 15? Yeah. The thrill of that isn't there in the same way that it used to be. And that's really great because it's meaning that people are becoming more okay with having not necessarily the latest version. And I think companies like Backmarket really, helps customers make that decision, because you can either pay well in excess of £1,000 for a new device, or you can pay well under that for the latest model minus a year perhaps, with some of the same functionality. It's been reconditioned, so you know that it's kind of getting that, all the mod cons of buying new, like split payments, the quality, the 30-day change of mind guarantee, the 12-month warranty. It's just like buying new, but really for, this is up to 70% less of the price that's new.
And I've got to admit, I've bought refurbished products, and honestly, I could not tell they'd been refurbished, apart from the fact one of them, the box was a bit tatty.
Yeah.
And some of the inner box packaging was missing, but apart from that, you could not tell the difference on the actual product between new and refurbished.
And how much does a box really, really matter when we're talking about the cost impact?
Well, as soon as we're talking about environmental aspects, it went in the recycling box, and they would have done that whether it was pristine or battered to death.
Exactly, and so I think you're right, and we're restoring people's faith and trust in the ability. They know they're not buying used anymore, they're buying refurbished, they understand the difference, they feel safer than that, and that is because we've put huge effort into making sure that purchase process is just like buying new.
So we've talked about this before. Every time I think refurbished tech, I'm thinking smartphone, laptop, iPad, or tablet. What do you think is coming next for refurbished? What's the next big thing? Is it going to be kitchen appliances, or what can we expect to be buying refurbished in a year, 2 years' time?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's not even needing to wait a year, 2 years' time. It's really already happening. We see, yes, no deny, a huge part of our business comes from smartphone. But then you're already starting to see people move into tablets, laptops, etc., like you mentioned, but more exciting categories that are therefore a bit bulkier. So we're even further reducing the waste of impact as coffee machines. Home security, we're seeing quite a lot of as well.
The doorbells and smart cameras.
Exactly, and your Hey Alexas and things. But particularly with coffee machines, really seeing a rise in the smaller sized electronics for the kitchen as well.
So that's really interesting. And I know Backmarket's also got a trade-in section now.
Yeah.
What are consumers coming to you for most? Are they just looking to buy refurbished tech, or are they just as keen to trade in devices?
So I think last time we spoke, the trade-in program...
It's very new, just launched it,
I'm trying to remember, we had either just launched it or we were days away from doing so. I can't remember the exact timing, but let's just say it's just launched. And it's gone really, really well in the UK. It's a service we'd already offered in France and Germany and Spain and the US, and more recently added it into the UK market. And I have to say I was a little bit nervous because the trade-in and circularity in the UK is already quite a mature sector. But we've seen our customers respond to it really, really well. And I think the secret is we've kept it super simple. You can get the valuation of your device within 2 minutes. Then you get an offer from a refurbisher and you get to agree to that price and send your device in, and the whole thing is really simple, which is just as well.
And I think the nice thing is it is a marketplace, so there's multiple refurbishers that can...
100%. You know that you're getting the best offer. You don't need to shop around. We've done that for you. Exactly. The research is really as well that the UK, the average Brit, has got 4 phones tucked away in their top drawer.
I'm embarrassed to say I've actually found some phones the other day that are so old I couldn't even send them in to be refurbished. Cause do you remember the Skype smartphone from 3 that had the Skype button on to make Skype calls? Because I got one of them at home, I found.
Wow. Well, even if we can't get that refurbished for you, we'll definitely make sure it gets recycled.
Recycled would be good. And on the recycling, I want to ask, brands themselves,
yep.
Are they doing enough to extend the life cycle of products, and what could they do to kind of make products have a longer lifespan in the first place, and also easier to recycle at the end, like my old smartphone that is literally ready for the bin?
It's a great question, and it is something that we're seeing, I guess it's a hot topic at the moment, right? So you've got 2 forces coming into play. You've got one, well, I'll say 3 even, customer demand for themselves. Customers are becoming educated. They want to know their product can be repaired. They want to know it can be recycled. They want to know it's going to last longer. The second force at play is the brands themselves are starting to see that commercial opportunity. You know, we have brands that used to sell through a distributor, for example, on back market, and some of them are starting to now realise the commercial opportunity and are starting to refurbish themselves and sell on their own channels.
So you can actually buy from the brand on back market
exactly,
now.
Or even from the brand themselves. That, you know, and for us, we think that's super. That's all category education that Refurbished can offer a good quality experience. But the third force that's at play is actually regulation. So we're starting to see a lot of pressure now going on to the manufacturers.
Because I've heard things like, it's the stupid things like in your refrigerator, the shelves, plastic shelves break, and you buy a new fridge because you can't buy the shelves, which is just crazy.
So there was a movement, and is a movement still, called the Right to Repair movement, of everybody fighting for their ability to repair devices. And with that, you have rules to say that all the parts must be readily available, they must be affordable, and that the design principles must mean that this item can easily be repaired. And that's whether we're talking you and me in the garage with a screwdriver, I hope that doesn't happen, it would be a disaster, or actually a commercial refurbisher. And that third pressure really is this regulation that is starting to come in to make manufacturers make their products more easily to be repaired, recycled, longer lasting.
And that's got to be good for everyone, both for their pocket and the environment.
Oh, and certainly, you think about that 2 million tonnes of waste, and this could make a real big impact. That regulation has come into play in the UK, but at the moment it's with a lot of your whiteware goods. So we're hoping obviously to see that passed down to devices, that all the devices really that sit on back market.
And finally, what's next for back market in the UK? And I guess specifically from our audience of retailers and brands, what should they be thinking of with back market in 2024? Where should they be? Where should you be in their roadmap?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, we're starting to see a lot of brands who are stepping up and responding to the challenge of circular economy, and that's really where we're doubling down this year. So for brands who are keen to work with us, we really think the back market can be a viable sales channel for the refurbished goods, whether that be via a partner or directly themselves, and that's something we really want to see more. But we've, like I said, UK is the fastest growing market, so we're really focusing on France, UK and the US to make sure that we're educating customers, and the area that we're really focusing on is around circular economy. It's become finally a topic of traction at long last. But it's our unique differentiator, and this is the conversation we want to have. How can we make sure that these devices are not just being recycled, but they're being repaired, and that they're also being refurbished as well, and prolonging their lives.
Fantastic. And finally, for those people that want to get hold of you, Katy, how do they get into contact to find out more and potentially start selling refurbished on?
Easiest to drop me a note on LinkedIn. So it was a pleasure speaking to you, and I hope we get lots of brands wanting to join the refurb revolution.
Thank you so much, Katy, and we'll put a link to your LinkedIn just below this video.
Great, thanks.
So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much. Cheers.